or the same as today, or cooler. And the chances that it will be warmer are exactly the same as the chances that it will be cooler.
And you're going to the Copenhagen summit on greenhouse gases. What's your objective there?
My objective at Copenhagen will be to say to the leading delegations there, in particular the Americans, the Canadians, the Japanese, the Australians, the New Zealanders.
I'm going to come back and play the last 2 minutes of the interview where he talks about what his objective in Copenhagen will be and what all of our objectives should be. And then I'm going to give you the latest developments on ClimateGate. We are also going to get into the treaty itself, the establishment of world government, and the biggest news. Now, this is old news for our listeners, but they're really doing it. The EPA has announced this morning they will list by the end of the Copenhagen event, December 18th. It goes for 11, 12 days. They will announce carbon dioxide as a toxic waste. This is unbelievable scientific fraud. This is a fraud as big as saying the moon is made of cheddar cheese or of Swiss cheese. It is just absolutely insanely ridiculous and shows how much contempt the globalists have for the general public. This is unbelievable. All right, let's finish up with Lord Monckton with what he's going to be doing at the Copenhagen event that started this morning. Started about 8 hours ago in Denmark. The world government openly being announced. This is what he is planning to do. He is scheduled to be joining us tomorrow for a full hour via cell phone from the conference. That should be wild. But here it is.
And you're going to the Copenhagen summit on greenhouse gases. What's your objective there?
My objective at Copenhagen will be to say to the leading delegations there, in particular the Americans, the Canadians, the Japanese, the Australians, the New Zealanders. I shan't bother with Europe because that is decided by commissars whom we don't elect, can't hold to account, can't remove and can't persuade. We are no longer a democracy in Western Europe. But I'm going to be talking to the delegations of the democracies, and I'm going to be saying to them one by one very quietly, first of all, here's the science. It no longer adds up. And everybody knows it no longer adds up. And your voters now know it no longer adds up. We're moving away from that now. And we're moving towards a world in which, once again, the skepticism, which is the proper approach of the scientist, is becoming instinct in the ordinary voter's mind.
Will you be talking to the Russians?
Yes, I will, because although the present Russian leadership has had not always a very kindly press in Britain, I will tell you this: the Russian democracy, as it now is 20 times more democratic than the British democracy has become, because we now have 90% of our laws made for us by commissars. That is the official German word for the commissioners of the European Union, whom we don't elect, can't question, can't remove and can't replace. They make 90% of the laws of Britain. But you have a Duma, you have a parliament in Russia, which makes 100% of Russia's laws. You are now a true democracy. God bless you for it. Of course I'll be talking to your delegation, because I will be talking to the delegation of a democratic administration. We no longer have one. I shall not be bothering to talk to the British delegation.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. And that is the bottom line. Under the Lisbon Treaty and other treaties, under EU expansion, an unelected group of bureaucrats rule the 25 member nations of the EU, including England, who has never been allowed to have a vote. Scotland and England have never been allowed to even have a vote on whether they want to be under its control. They have just gone under its control. Laws against free speech, environmental laws, and taxes. Total control. And when you read the Club of Rome documents, when you read the statements that we cover in my film Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement, when you look at the SPP, Security Prosperity Partnership documents, when you read the statements of the European Union, when you read the public statements by the new head of the European Union, Herman Van Rompuy. I always call him Herman Van Rompuy. It's Van Rompuy is how it's actually pronounced. Utterly ridiculous. Sorry if your name happens to be Rompuy, but just it doesn't roll off the tongue too well. They are saying that this will be a global Europe, that the European Union is the center of the spoke, the core, that the big-moneyed Rothschild and other interests, the Saxe-Coburg-Goethas of England and of Europe, they are the dominant force. They loan the money to J.P. Morgan. When he died, it came out in mainstream newspapers. He was a British/European agent. They loaned the money to the Rockefellers. They loaned all the money to set up the robber baron blue blood elite of the United States. They had tried to take us over again in 1776. They tried to finance the South in the 1830s to overthrow Jackson, but because he was a Southerner from South Carolina and then Tennessee, he was able to beat it. They then funded the South again, trying to break up the United States. And I'm not taking sides on the North and South. My entire family was on the South, and colonels and generals, and they were being abused by the North. So the British came in and manipulated that to try to break up the country, but failed again. This is imperial divide and conquer that we're dealing with. And when you talk about the British, they are a royal house out of Europe. And you read in the Treaty of Rome, 1957, that they planned a European Union that would then take over the planet. And they discuss how Hitler did it wrong, using force, that it needed to be done by stealth. And we see that again and again in the latest documents that have been released via FOIA request and lawsuits in Canada, the U.S., England, and the continent of Europe, that it's all being done by stealth. Now, in 1998, when George Bush was running for re-election as governor, I went to a press conference. He'd been given the same speech over and over again. They had said he would take questions. Then they announced he wouldn't take questions. He gave the speech. At the end of his speech, because his speech was online, we knew it was the end of the speech, I asked the question. I said, if you care about Texas so much, what about the CFR? What about Europe taking over America through the private Federal Reserve? I knew it was that banking system getting everyone in debt, getting the states in debt, to implode us through derivatives, as they'd done in third world countries over and over again. Then in March of 2002, over 1,000 pages of secret IMF and World Bank documents got leaked to Greg Palast of BBC, stating they were planning it in the next 8 years in Europe and the U.S. to bankrupt us just like Argentina, to bankrupt us just like African countries and Asian countries. Nigeria is one of the best examples. We know their game plan. That's how we're able to lay all this out. Again, I use the parable of the TV guide. If I come home and tell my wife at 5 o'clock when we're eating dinner on Monday night, hey, honey, the Bengals are going to be playing the Cowboys tonight, and then the Bengals and the Cowboys come on at 7, 8 o'clock at night for an NFL game, she doesn't say, my gosh, honey, you've got psychic powers. How did you know this? No, it's the TV guide. They told us what they would do. It's public. It's public. They're going to bankrupt everything. They want you to riot. They're then going to turn regular army and paramilitary troops loose on you to sell the idea that we have to have martial law. They won't call it martial law. They'll call it security crackdown. They're going to take over everything. This is a hot takeover they're getting ready for. Not a Cold War against freedom. War is being declared on humanity. World government is here. Do I need to play Al Gore? Do I need to play Von Rompuy? Do I need to play Ban Ki-moon saying world government? Do I need to play the President Obama saying global governance? Do I need to play these clips again? You've all heard them. Or if your neighbors or friends haven't, get the film Fall of the Republic where they're on video saying it. We need to warn people now. We're being politically conquered. This is a economic, political, corporate coup of every sovereign nation, and these people are Nazi eugenicists. And I use the term Nazi. They're not really Nazis. That's just one flavor of one spin-off group of these people. Hitler learned everything he did from England and the U.S. And this is a more liberal version of that, where they say we're going to sterilize and kill everybody. Do you understand? This is the only issue. This is the issue. This is everything happening now. Now, here I am 11 years ago, having my arm almost twisted off my back. They grabbed it, twisted it all the way up to the top of my back. To this day, my shoulder rotator cuff is ripped from this, and if I roll over at night wrong, shooting pain goes through me